Hello, it is day 2. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes to let people get the notifications. If you are watching me on the replay, before anyone else joins us, on the replay, please do let me know that you've watched by using the hashtag replay. And don't forget that I will still go back and answer your questions and reply to your comments. So if you have anything that you want to ask me, anything you're thinking about in terms of launching or expanding or exploding your well-being business, your meditation business, do remember to let me know. I'm still walking alongside you even if you're not here live. Obviously, it's amazing to be live so that you can ask me questions in real time, and also, as I've said before, because then I can feel your energy. Yesterday was amazing. I got off that live stream like, oh my gosh, this was absolutely the right thing for me to do. We spoke a lot yesterday about how the world is so desperately in need of these types of practices. And it was actually really amazing to see that I wasn't alone in thinking that. And also, what was even more powerful for me was to watch those of you that showed up live and those of you that watched on the replay as well, and those of you that emailed me, messaged me. We've got about 95 people on this challenge, so it's amazing to see so many people honouring their own dreams, creating their own vision for the future, rather than being held back or focusing on what all of the family need, what your partner needs, what work is asking of you. This is all about you stepping up and honouring your own dreams. And what is really amazing about that, and this is what I touched on yesterday, was that actually that means that when your friends, your family, your children, your co-workers, your colleagues, everybody that you come into contact with look at you, you're setting the trend. That's what a leader is. A leader goes first. A leader shows people what is possible. A leader shows people that if you have a vision and you want it enough, and you're coming from that place of service, that taking massive action is going to get you to that point where you're like, oh my gosh, I am living my dream. And this is what's inspired today's live, really, is I was speaking on a podcast before Christmas, and it's just been released. You should check it out. It's on my stories. And one of the things we spoke about was how I ended up here in this position. And one of the things that it reminded me was that there was a point where I was like, this was all a big dream. I remember looking at other people's Instagram feeds, other people's Facebook feeds, and just thinking, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if I could do that? And I remember one person in particular, I saw that he'd gone and taught at Google, and I thought, oh my word, wouldn't that be amazing? And then before you know it, I was there teaching at Google. So this live is all about helping you not make the mistakes that I did, so that you can get there much more quickly than I did. But also the secrets that I have found, I've worked out, that I've worked with coaches to get my hands on. All of the gold that has allowed me to create a brand, which has allowed me to teach in those kind of places, which has allowed me to fill rooms full of people with teaching them meditation, teaching the things that I love. It's allowed me to have a job that I'm just absolutely obsessed with. It's allowed me to be featured in Good Housekeeping magazine, all those things that I've already told you about. Today is all about me sharing with you the little nuggets that have really helped me along my journey. A lot of it is about taking massive, massive action. I'm going to come on to that at the end. If you want to live an extraordinary life, this is something that I've heard once. I think, again, it was my favourite Tony Robbins, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is everything. If you want to live lead an extraordinary life, you have to do the things that ordinary people won't do. So yes, this is going to set you up with steps that you need to take. Yes, it's going to talk a little bit around the mindset, but it's up to you. You have to take massive action to get where you want to be. And trust me, if you do it, you'll be sat here in a position like this at some point going, oh my gosh, do you remember when we did that? Or do you remember when I thought that would never happen? And it did. You know, I'm just like you. I'm definitely no guru. I am obsessed with my practices. I've got a consistent practice myself. I learn, I can use, I continually go on course. I'm a course addict and I'm willing to grow. That's all you need to be able to get where you want to be. So I'm just going to have a look and see who has joined us. Please do let me know if you're there. Hi, Melissa. Hello, Chloe. Hello. It says Facebook user, so I don't know who that is, but hello. Thank you for joining me again, honouring your own dreams by being here. And I know for Melissa, for you, it was a bit hit and miss when you were going to be here. So I'm really happy that you're here. So yesterday we spoke about the fact that the world definitely needs meditation right now. So whether you are ready or not, the world is waiting for people to share these practices with them. We also talked about the importance of synchronicity. So following the divine breadcrumbs, if you like, that the universe throws at us. We are given all the time opportunities to move towards the highest vision of ourselves. And it's up to us again. It's up to us. It lies with you. Do you take the action or do you stay where you are? We're going to talk more about how we kind of get ourselves to take the massive action later on. But we spoke about the fact that if you're getting signs, if I'm just popping up and you were exactly when you needed me, that is definitely a sign you're in the right place. We also spoke about developing a really strong, consistent self-led practice. We spoke about how guided meditation, using a script, using YouTube, using an app will get you so far. But in terms of being able to have the depth and experience of practice to be able to teach meditation to a professional standard, you really need to have a self-led meditation technique in place. And what came forward in the comments and in people's emails and things afterwards was that they were like, oh my gosh, I don't have a self-led practice. I would say maybe 90% of Exhale instructors came to me without a self-led practice. If you go on the right training course, so if you trained with us or if you trained with another meditation school, you will be taught the technique. The difference with ours is it takes you into that depth of practice. It gives you that experience really, really quickly because of the practice that we favour. So it's a self-led practice. It's called automatic transcending practice, and it's absolutely effortless. You don't need to have laser vision, level of focus. You don't need to have superhero skills where you suddenly clear your mind of all thought. You don't need any of that. What our practice does is it uses internalized sound, rhythm, and repetition to calm the nervous system, which in turn calms and settles your mind to a point where you are able to shift consciousness. So we sit for the most part in beta brainwaves. We're able to shift quite easily into alpha brainwaves if you're using techniques like focusing, like candle gazing, for example, or when you're listening to a guided meditation, or when you are using what we call open monitoring techniques, which are mindfulness, like following the breath. It's quite easy for you to slip into alpha state, which is great because it absolutely de-stresses the body. But what we really want you to experience is that depth of practice that comes when you are able to shift deeper into theta and then into delta brainwaves. So delta is where all the healing takes place, deep healing. It's also this, you'll recognize that state just before you fall asleep and just after you fall asleep as well. So what our practice, what our Exhale self-led technique and what the 21-day meditation challenge does for our instructors is it takes them deep really quickly and takes them into that altered state of consciousness where we can meet the magic of the moment. That's all meditation is. When we're doing following the breath, when we are doing mindfulness practices, we're able to meet the magic of the present, like in that moment. It's great for de-stressing. What we do with the self-led is we also meet the magic of the moment in another worldly sense. So for me, I would describe it as a touch of heaven. It feels joyful, blissful. It's a state where your awareness has dropped so low, thought no longer exists. It's a beautiful, healing, restorative practice. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I know that we got cut off yesterday because there was a drilling episode happening next door. So hello, Nicola, if you're still with us. Thank you for joining us. So, right, moving on to brand then. So this is relevant for anybody that has any type of business, to be honest. But obviously, I'll be tailoring it to meet your needs. So talking about wellbeing businesses, talking about how you go from just dabbling in meditation, maybe starting out your business, to really exploding your brand. So first of all, it's really important to understand what a brand is. So a brand is how your business, or your brand is how your business is perceived by your customers and by the public. So what makes up their perception? It's everything you put out there. So from your graphics, your images, the way that you, the tone that you use in terms of your content and your social media, it's the service itself that you're offering, how you deal with your customers, so the tone of voice that you use, the offers that you give them, but also it's all about who you associate yourself with, and where your credibility lies and where you're positioned in the market. So it's really overwhelming when we think about brand, but I have come up with a really easy way of doing it, and I now have a super powerful brand, I believe, and the clients and the testimonials that we've got demonstrate that I'm right with that. But what's really amazing about it is that it's authentically me. My brand is just an extension of me. And when I first started out in this business, the biggest mistake that I made was I tried to create a brand based on what I thought it should be like. So what I thought a meditation brand should look like. So it was all very calming colours, all very scripted fonts. It was very spiritually focused. But what I mean by that is very traditional types of meditation that I was talking about. It was traditional ways of teaching. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. It was a beautiful brand that I created. But what accidentally happened, the tone of voice that I was using, the way that I was referencing all these scientific terms, the way that I was talking about essentially what are monastic techniques that are actually quite difficult for the average Joe on the street, I actually ended up positioning myself as some sort of guru status teacher, or that was the perception of the public. Obviously, I am 100% not a guru. But what was happening was that people were looking at my brand, looking at what I was doing, and feeling quite intimidated by what I was putting out there. They were looking at the things that I was talking about, and they couldn't really understand it. If I'd have been aiming my client at other guru status teachers, or if I'd been aiming my product at, really established, really yogis with a really deep practice, then it would have probably been okay. But I wanted to really reach those people, and this is still true today. I really want to reach those people that absolutely desperately need us, the people that don't yet have a meditation practice. So I was going about that all completely wrong, basically. I was positioning myself in such a way, or the perception of my brand, and that was coming through in my graphics, like I said, my fonts, my colour scheme, the images that I was putting out, the blogs that I was putting out, even the type of service that I was putting out, what was actually happening was that people were looking at me and thinking, oh my word, I'm never going to be able to achieve what she's achieved. I'm never going to be able to sit like that. I'm never going to be able to sit in silence. I'm never going to be able to use that technique. So people were almost giving up before they even began. People need to feel that there's a likeness in you, between you and them. People need to be able to see themselves in you so that they can look at the distance that you've travelled and know that it's possible for them too. Yes, we need to keep some inspirational content out there. Yes, we need to say, look, I'm experienced, I'm well trained, I've got accreditation, I've got a mentor, I've got a safeguarding system in place, all those things that we absolutely need to communicate to people, but we also need to be able to communicate in such a way that reaches them on their level. So what I really want you to think about when you're building your brand is, who are you talking to? Do you want to work with those people that haven't yet got a meditation practice? Or do you want to help people deepen their practice? Because the way that you build your brand will be completely different depending on who you are aiming your product at. And in fact, the service that you offer, so the type of meditation that you teach, for example, and the packages that you offer will be completely different for the people over here, which are the experienced yogis, all already kind of know what they're doing, and the people over here that are brand new to this practice. So it's really important that you have a think about your ideal clients before you begin deciding things like your colour scheme, your font, your service, and all those other things that I've spoken about. What's really important as well in the way that you position your brand, the way that you display your brand, the way that you talk about your services and your offerings is that it's authentically you. So I'm obsessed with music. That's why music features heavily in my branding. My favourite colours are the purples, the pinks, the neons. My favourite place in the world, or one of them, there's two favourite places I've got, Ibiza and Disney World, or Disneyland, I'm not sure. I don't like. At this stage, I'd go to any three of those places, just like that. But it's inspired by that sense, those bright colours, the magic, the almost like a whimsical kind of feel to it, but mixed with the modern as well. So I want you to think about who you are. How can that be represented in the services, the fonts, the colours, the graphics, even the name of your business? So social media now gives us an opportunity to really show up authentically as well. Like back in the day, it was really hard actually for people to get to know you. And one of the ways that we get people to fall in love with our products and our services, one of the ways that we get people to really engage with what we're offering, and so to such an extent that they start to refer you to their friends, their families, their schools, without you having to actually do anything at all. One of the ways that we do that is by allowing them to get to know us. When they know us, they begin to see themselves in us. That builds this level of trust. Trust for a meditation instructor is absolutely vital. If you don't have the trust factor, or you're not able to build the trust factor with those people that you want to come to your classes, you're going to really struggle to get them to invest in you, in your products or your service, but also when they're actually in your class. If you've managed to get them that far, it's going to be really difficult for them to let go, release, and relax enough to be able to sit with all that they are. And we spoke a little bit about this yesterday, about the privilege, but also the responsibility of leading people in meditation. When we join people in meditation, when we hold space for them in that way, what we're asking them to do is drop down their guards, drop down all of these layers that they've placed upon themselves, which protect them from judgment, which protect them from criticism, that protect them from standing out from the crowd. You know, all of these layers of roles and responsibilities and personas that we place upon ourselves, they're generated by society. What we actually do during meditation is we ask people to peel all these layers and these personas back to a place where it's just them. They have to be vulnerable enough to sit with the truth of who they are. And like I said yesterday, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel scary for people. That silence, that stillness can feel uncomfortable for people. So your job as a meditation instructor is to get them to trust you enough that it's safe for them to let down those barriers, to let those guards down, to take off those fake personas and just be who they are, but also start to fall back in love with themselves again. And that's why it's really important in terms of your brand, in terms of how you're showing up, in terms of how you're talking and displaying your product or your service. You go first. That's what a leader is. I've already said this once on this live stream already. So a leader is somebody that shows people the way forward. And in this instance, it's somebody who shows people it's okay to make mistakes, that I'm not perfect, but I can still meditate. I'm not perfect, but I can still have a really deep spiritual practice. The imperfection that they see in you leads to connection. The fact that you're vulnerable enough to share some of your not so nice, or maybe not so nice factors about your life and your journey, and the things that you find uncomfortable, the things that you find difficult. I talk quite a lot about my anxiety, my depression, and how the lockdown, for example, has really brought those back to the forefront. I'm really open and honest about the fact that I still struggle. And I think for a lot of people, when they start out in this business, they try and put themselves out there as this perfectly whole and healed person. And actually, because they think that, oh gosh, I better not admit that sometimes I shout at my children because I'm a meditation instructor, they forget that they're human, and the humanness is what's going to allow people to connect with you. That's what's going to allow people to be able to see themselves in you. So social media is really giving us an opportunity with things like stories, with Instagram TV, with just the fact that we can just live stream like this and just have a conversation, allows you to really show up authentically and build that trust factor. And we build that trust factor so that people can go deep in meditation just by showing up authentically, revealing your flaws, not putting on this picture perfect image, but also talking about your journey and the distance that you've traveled. And we all know that energy never lies, and people can still feel it through your posts, through a live stream. You show up differently as well when you're trying to hide things and parts of who you are. And actually, that is part of the heaviness that makes business not enjoyable. When you're trying to put on this front, when you're trying to hide things, when you're trying to sort of read from a script, or all those things make business feel really heavy, because it's a slow denial of who you really are. What I really want for my instructors and for everyone that's in this group starting a business right now is that they fall in love with their business, because that way more people are going to get to learn about these practices. More people are going to bring meditation into their homes. More people are going to share it with their children. And then, like I said yesterday, imagine the world that we could create if children were taught how to meditate, or if people in the workplace were taught how to meditate and that was the norm. Imagine. And that is the way that the industry is going. And right now you can be a part of that if you're showing up in that really authentic, genuine way. So talk to me for a minute. If you're still watching and you're able to type, let me know if you have any thoughts or any questions on that. I'm just going to look at my notes and make sure that I've covered what I wanted to talk about in terms of being authentic. If that is making sense to you, please give me a love heart or thumbs up, whatever you want to do to let me know that you're still with me. Remember that this is your training, so if you want me to talk more about anything in particular, please do let me know. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about whilst I'm waiting for you to do that is about the importance of consistency. So Your brand needs to be consistent across all platforms and in all areas of your business. So I've already spoke a little bit about that already. So it's like talking about the same things, so the same message with the same color schemes, the same graphics, all of that kind of stuff. Consistent visibility, consistent message, consistent brand. Why is this important? Because, let me tell you a little story now. So I managed to get teaching in Google, which even now, I think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got a contract to teach in Google. The way that came about was that I got asked to teach at a festival. It was Fern Cotton's festival. So Fern wanted us and the rest of the Exhale crew to come along and teach at her festival at Saffron Park. It was amazing. I put a photo up of us at the entrance to that festival. We couldn't believe that we were there. And what happened with Google was that there was somebody who's quite high up at Google went to that festival. Okay, so she went to the festival. She then went back to Google and said, look, I had an amazing experience at this festival with this meditation instructor, with this particular type of meditation. We'd love you. We'd love to bring her in. You're the powers that be. Can we get a yes on it? The powers that be then went and did their homework, as any big corporate brand would do, as any big festival would do, as any big celebrity would do. They do their homework. They came to my website. They came to my social media page. They came to my blogs. And what they saw was a consistent message which backed up her recommendation. So it needs to be consistent across all of your platforms. And it also needs to be consistent in the way that, in the services that you're offering, and also in the way that you communicate with your clients and your customers. So to give you an example of that, I could have all these neon colours. I could have all of these funky slogans. We've got awesome, I don't think you can see it actually, we've got an awesome uniform, we can have all of that stuff. And then if I were to then offer a service which was a really traditional form of meditation, and I'm not knocking that, but it's not in alignment with my brand. So the consistency is key. The consistency is what allows you to kind of back up what you're talking about. The other way that we can back up our brand and give ourselves that extra opportunity of being chosen by these high-end, I want to say corporate giants, because that's what they are, and celebrities. And if you want to work at those big festivals, you need to be able to back it up with some form of credibility. So the credibility can form a massive part of your brand. So at Exhale, we do that in lots of different ways. Like I said, we've already spoke about the consistency, and it's the right tone, all of the graphics, the fonts, the way that we communicate is all consistent. We show up consistently as well. We're visible. If you want to get these kind of contracts, people need to be able to find you. And sometimes that means getting out of your own way and stopping thinking I'm getting on people's nerves by showing up everywhere. I was saying to somebody the other day that my boyfriend said to me, oh my word, everywhere I look, there you are. So on YouTube, I'm on a podcast, I'm on social media, I'm on his emails, I'm like everywhere. And I was like, yeah, that's what it takes, going back to my original quote right at the beginning, to lead an extraordinary life, to have these amazing clients and experiences and opportunities, and to have these moments of, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We need to do things that ordinary people won't do. But also something connected to that, and this is something that I've been sharing with my instructors recently, is that actually we live in such a busy, noisy world that we think that we're doing people's heads in, that we think we're like in their faces constantly. But actually what happens is we kind of fall into the background, but that's okay. And the example that my coach gave to me recently was, if you watch a soap, for example, so you might watch Coronation Street, and in the middle of Coronation Street, there's the same ads every time. So it used to be Compare the Market. After the first couple of times I've seen it, I'm not even really watching it properly. But what is happening, and this is what's really important, is that it's actually going into my subconscious. There is a science behind this. So you won't be getting on people's nerves. You won't, particularly if you're offering a professional professional value-driven service, and you are, in terms of what you're putting out there, is valuable to people, even if they're too busy or it's not high enough up on their priority list, it'll be slowly going in, so that when the time is right for them, there you are at the forefront of their minds. So when I'm ready to book my car insurance, I'm going on to compare the market. I think Coronation Street is now changed to Argos. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows. But the consistency is important. The credibility is important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about credibility now and continue on with that. That's how we back up what we say on our posts. That's how we back up what we say on our website and our blog. So we build, that's what we we're going to say, wasn't it? We build up credibility by having social proof, testimonials, but also our associations and our clients. So social proof is really, really important. So there are a certain type of people that will be what we call early adopters, and they will just jump on anything. They'll try anything. If it kind of sparks something within them, they'll try it. But they are few and far between. Most people want to see that somebody else has been and trialed this service. They want to see proof that this is something that's popular. They also, connected to that, want to see proof that this is something that's going to elevate their social status. So people are motivated essentially by three things. So they either move away from pain. That's quite difficult because as human beings we quite enjoy pain, but that's another life. And they either move towards pleasure, and our movement towards pleasure is usually much easier. There's much less resistance there. Or they move towards social elevation. So what you want to do with your product is position it in such a way, with all of your branding that I've already spoke about, and those different elements of the branding, so that it feels like, if I am as that client, I'm thinking as that client now, if I go to that class and I talk about it on social media, and essentially this is all social media is, it's providing proof that I've got social status. I'm doing things that I know, I'm posting about things that I know other people will like, because that gives me some sort of kudos. It gives me some sort of sense of keeping up with the Joneses or being ahead of the Joneses. So what we want to do is provide evidence and proof that the service that you're offering, A, is being taken up and adopted by people, but also is something that is valuable to them in terms of their social status. It's something that's cool. It's something that's going to heal them. It's some, depending on what your ideal client is interested in and what motivates your ideal client, those things will be different. But another way that we build credibility is through our associations. So when you first start out, obviously you haven't got the big name clients that we have to be able to talk to people about, to give them some kind of proof that actually we know what we're talking about. You know, I can say, well, we've been featured in Good Housekeeping magazine, we're in the Mail on Sunday, we have a contract with ITV, we're working with a big charity at the moment. Oh my gosh, though, can I just say, well, just take a breather for a minute, I'm trying to film videos for this charity that I have a contract with, or that Excel has a contract with, and the technology is up the wall. So does anyone know, is it Mercury retrograde? Because it definitely feels like it is, or that it's coming, because technology is going up the wall. But yeah, so I have all these range of clients and people that we've worked with, celebrities that we've worked with, all these names that we can drop. But when you first, and that's amazing for my Excel instructors, because they can use that in their own marketing as well. That's what's beautiful about Excel, is that when one of us wins, or when I go out and do something, all of my instructor community win as well. And actually that means that the wider world win too, because sometimes we just need to be able to trust a little bit more, and for whatever reason, using big client names, using testimonials, all those kind of things help build that extra level of trust. Ultimately, sales is just an exchange of confidence. That's all your job is. And as meditation instructors, quite often we or as holistic practitioners, wellbeing practitioners, we kind of shy away from sales. But it's just about getting your head around the fact that actually, if I'm good at what I do, I'm doing a disservice to people by not allowing them to purchase my product. Sometimes they just don't buy your product because they don't believe that it's going to help them. Okay, and sometimes that's about your mindset and your energy around it as well. But most of the time, it's just because you've shied away a little bit, or because you don't have this credibility to back you up in terms of previous clients. So how can we, if we're right at the start of our journey, how can we get to that point where, or how can we hack that, if you like? I'm all about the hacks. How can we get there quicker? Because ultimately, for me, the quicker you get to that place of elevation, with that credibility behind you, the more people you're going to serve ultimately, and there's that big ripple effect of you serving those people as they go back into their homes, their workplaces, whatever, their families, whatever it is. So when you first start out in your business, obviously you don't have the testimonials or the client list behind you. But what you can do is associate yourself. Remember, right at the beginning, we said that branding was all about who you associate yourself with. You can essentially piggyback on somebody else's credibility. So what you want to be looking for at the start of your business is as many opportunities as possible to network with people that are in your community, in your industry, already doing great things. But there's a caveat to that. Obviously, anybody's in business, their audience is their most important and valuable aspect of their business. So they are not going to give you access to their client list just like that. So what you want to do is prove that you've done your research, prove that you can offer something different to them as the practitioner, but also how are you going to get better results for their clients. So that might be that you approach yoga teachers, because I get so many emails and messages and just people talking to me about the fact that they lie at the end of yoga class in Shavasana, and they're like, what the hell am I supposed to be doing here? They close their eyes down and they're pretending to meditate. And I think it was Emma, one of our instructors, said that's exactly what she used to do at the end of yoga. That's what I used to do at the end of yoga as well. I didn't have a clue what to do. So there's a whole market of people sat in yoga classes right now thinking, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing in this meditation part of the class. So one of the ways that you could help that yoga teacher, because we know that when people meditate, their performance goes up. We know that they move more mindfully. We know that their motivation for turning up to classes, their motivation levels in general, their energy levels in general, all of those things that a yoga teacher is going to want her clients to have, or a fitness teacher is going to want her clients to have, for example, as well, we can provide through meditation. So I can provide her or him, depending on who you're working with, an opportunity for her clients to learn more about meditation, which is then going to impact her classes as well. So it's all about the way that you communicate what you can offer to whoever you want to associate with. So what I want you to do as part of a little bit of homework is look in your local community, look in your phone book, look at those people on your Facebook and Instagram feed. Who could you approach to say, look, I'm doing meditation instructor training, or I've already done my training, I'm starting my business, I really want to be able to offer people that really need this practice, these skills. I really want to work with you to help provide X, Y, Z results, and see who you could, just make that list today. Who could you be helping? Who could you be working alongside? Somebody that's got a little bit of credibility, already got a client base, already got a really good reputation. Remember that this is your brand as well. So you don't want to align yourself with somebody that you don't 100% trust either. Aligning yourself with the wrong person in your industry could really make or break your brand as well. So that's your little bit of homework. Have a think about who could you work with, who could you do a workshop with, Who could you go in with and sit at the end of their class and say, I'm just going to take you through a quick meditation, I'm going to take you through a quick practice, I'm going to take you through some breath work, I'm going to take you through some mindful movement, whatever it is. Who could you come and kind of piggyback onto their success? And not, and this is, again, it's leading with service, leading with how can I help that practitioner as well? What will they gain by working with me? Okay, so last bit before we go is all of this is amazing. So we've talked so far about making sure that your brand is authentic to you, making sure it's aligned with who you are, your energy, making sure that you don't come off as a guru status teacher, but also making sure that you are real, you're honest, you're vulnerable, that you share your highs and your lows, making sure that you are consistent with your branding across all your platforms, making sure that you are visible across all platforms, that you're going the extra mile. Also that your message is consistent as well, so that you're talking about the same thing over and over and over again. Otherwise, that trust factor goes instantly, because you stop being the expert and you start filtering and watering down people's perception of your knowledge and your skill set. You want to keep it really niche, which is something that we're going to talk about tomorrow. We've talked about credibility and how to piggyback essentially on somebody else who's already got an elevated level of success. But the most important thing here is to have the vision. None of what has happened for me in my business would have happened had I not had a really compelling vision of the future, and had I not kept myself in check and checked my belief, checked my thought processes, checked my behavior, constantly coming back to that vision. Remember that, we don't do what we can do. We don't do what we can do. We do what we believe we are. So there's work that needs to be done in terms of your mindset. A lot of that comes with working with a mentor and having somebody, like I said yesterday, that can really hold that vision for you. But I'm just going to take you through 4 steps that you can take to make sure that you are setting off on this journey with a really compelling vision of the future, so that you're able to take the action steps that you need to take. So the first thing is to get yourself into what we call a peak state. So yesterday we talked about using our physiology, hacking the brain with the breath and with our body language, with our physiology, to get you into that state where you're reconnected with your natural default setting of confidence and courage, feeling powerful, reminded of your infinite capability and possibility. The next step, once you've got yourself into that state, remember that with Exhale instructors, we take them on that journey. We teach them these tools. It's something that I'm really passionate about, is giving that. We teach our clients this as well. So it's not just the instructors. We teach people how to reclaim that state, how to get into that peak state, so that they're able to live life from a completely different perspective, full of motivation, but like I say, full of courage. We can take the steps that we need to take. The second step, once you're in that state, is to create in your mind's eye a compelling vision of the future. So this is just about you finding your passion and looking at, what do I really want? Sometimes we can be inspired by looking what other people have achieved, but don't let that be the limit of your potential. Don't let that limit your dream, your vision. It's about getting quiet, listening to yourself beneath all these layers that society places upon us. All of that, the pushing and pulling from friends, from family, from workplace, from society, all those expectations, all that judgment, all that need to be accepted. I want to strip all that back. How do we do that? We meditate. That's when we can hear our true selves. A really great way to meditate in terms of your vision, in terms of creating this compelling vision of the future, is heart opening meditation, where you can really sit in that place of joy and gratitude really easily, so that you're able to get really excited about your vision of the future, which is what is going to drive you. You need to be in touch with that vision. So we're creating that vision, and I want you to think about your senses as well. So when you're visualizing what you want to happen in your mind's eye, I want you to think about all of the different senses. So what would you be able to hear in the background? So quite often when I'm doing my morning visualizations, I'm thinking about the sound of laughter of the children, like my child and my stepchildren, and how excited they would be if I achieved this vision. I think about what would it smell like Jo Malone candles, is it incense, whatever it is. And actually you can hack that as well by literally setting the scene with your favourite perfume, with incense burning, candles burning, whatever it is, while you're meditating. I want you to think about where those voices and those smells are coming from. Are they coming from behind you, in front of you? The more realistic this image can become in your mind's eye, the more compelling it will be for you. Some people can't actually see a vision in front of their eyes, they just feel it, and that's equally, if not more, powerful. There are no rights or wrongs, but I really want you to think about what would bring you joy, away from what everyone else wants. What actually would feel light, exciting, joyful to you? The next step is then, from that point, thinking about what action steps do I need to take. So right now for you guys, it was about showing up consistently with this challenge. It was about taking the action steps that I'm giving you throughout these 3 days, committing to that, and then recommitting on a daily basis. You know, that's something that comes up a lot, is a lot of people check out of their vision before it's actually had a chance to come into fruition. I make a commitment every day. Sometimes I don't want to make it. Sometimes I want to stay in bed a little bit longer. Sometimes I really don't want to film that meditation class. Sometimes I just want to lay about and watch Netflix, and that is absolutely fine. But I know that I have to keep recommitting. If I want to achieve that vision, I've got to keep pushing forwards. And that doesn't mean I take myself to burnout. Something that's really important and a real core part of how I teach and how my instructors work is that we find that sense of balance as well. So we have this interplay between the masculine and the feminine. So the feminine is all about the vision and the feeling into and the leaning into the support that the universe will provide for you, looking and following those divine breadcrumbs that are going to make that journey a little bit easier for you. It's almost like the universe throws you a line. It's like, this will take you there quicker. No, but the masculine is also important too. So we lean in and out. The masculine is about taking the action. It's about the doing. It's about the motivation. It's about keeping the peak state high. So throughout our days and throughout our months even, we work with the cycles of the moon, which is what I did a live with Chloe, one of our instructors, about really recently, and about how you can chart when is going to be your most active period, when you're going to have the most energy to move forward. But you can also do that by, the more you meditate, the more our attention muscle builds. So I talk a lot about the ABCs of meditation. So the A stands for the awareness of how we're feeling. The awareness of how we're feeling is brought about by our ability to pay attention to the subtle messages that our bodies send us. Our bodies are constantly providing us with information that let us know how we're feeling. They let us know when something isn't quite in alignment with us, when it doesn't feel quite right, when it feels a bit heavy. If you listen hard enough, you will be guided where you need to go, and you'll also be guided to take a rest, to breathe, to find balance again. But the more that you practice paying attention to how your body feels, the more that you allow yourself that time of stillness, to get back in touch. The more you practice meditation, the more you practice breath work, you'll get better at reading those signals and those signs, which then leads you to be able to bring yourself back into balance. So you're able to breathe before you burn out, before you break down. That's the second B. And then from that point, when we're able to bring ourselves back into balance, that's when our clarity, that's when our creativity, that's when our courage comes back into play. So every day I pay attention to how I'm feeling. Do I need to take a bath? Do I need to do another meditation? Before I came on here, I had a little bit of meditation, but I know I've not eaten, and that's going to affect the way that I've shown up on here today. You're listening to those signals are really important, and actually allows you to create a business and create a brand which is powerful without it feeling effortful. Before I started to implement these ABCs, business, so I've had a business before this one as well, business was hard going, it was tough, but now it flows with ease and grace. Like I say, there are still days where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do it, but I'm able to pick myself back up much more quickly. So my bounce back rate, because of the practices that we teach at Exhale and the practices that we teach our instructors, allow us to keep picking ourselves back up again and keep going and keep our energy levels topped right up to the top, so that we're able to serve more authentically and more energetically and more powerfully. And the last step, so we've had get yourself into a peak state, create a compelling vision of the future, decide and commit and continue to commit each and every day. And then the fourth step is to take massive action. Okay? Each day, what can I do that's going to propel me forwards? How to make taking massive action easy. Make sure again that you get yourself back into that peak state so that we're not flooded with those negative thoughts, so our motivation is high. But also making sure that you are working through a proven business model. You've got a plan, or that you're following in these footsteps of a mentor. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Business is really quite simple. All of the heavy lifting has been done. All we've got to do moving forward is evolve and adapt, and to suit situations like we've got Corona at the moment. So obviously we're having to respond and act a little bit differently in our business, but essentially the business model is in place. So for all of my instructors, it's easy for them because they're just able to pick up the business model that we've already created for them. So it's all about, can you keep taking that action, and how can you make it easier for yourself? So that's pretty much everything. The only other thing that I wanted to say was that there are some things that are going to propel you towards this vision of the future that you've created. There are some things that are going to accelerate you towards your dreams, so you can hold them in your hands, so you can be sat here going, I can't believe that actually happened to me. But there are also some things that are going to hold you back as well. And there are 5 things there. It's your emotions. They're either going to need to get in check, keep your emotions balanced. We're empathic. I'm quite sensitive is the word. So I do go like this. That's why my meditation practice and my peak state practices and my breath work and my physiology practices are so important, because it allows me, despite my natural predisposition to be like this, it allows me to keep me nice and balanced. The second thing that's going to propel you forward or put the brakes on is what you're focusing on, essentially. So I could be focusing on the fact that I'm like, my house is an absolute tip at the moment, but I'm actually focusing on the fact that I am providing value and service and having an amazing time talking to lots of people that are like-minded. The third thing is how you model, whether you choose to model someone else's behavior or whether you're choosing to go it alone. The fourth thing that's going to accelerate you or put your brakes on is whether you follow the synchronicities and the synergy and the divine breadcrumbs. And the fifth thing is your environment. So who you are surrounding yourself with. And we spoke a little bit about this yesterday, but the power of community is just immense, really. And what they say is, that you will elevate yourself in line with your peers. So what you want to do is create a peer system, create a community where there are people within your community that you hang out with, that you converse with, that you interact with, that are doing amazing things in their business or in their lives, so that you can align yourself with them, so that you can share that energy, so that you can share that service and that love and that joy that they put out into the world, rather than being held back. That sometimes means we've got to have uncomfortable conversations. That sometimes means that we've got to leave people and places behind. Your job is to honour your dreams, your desires, and sometimes that means that we've got to take action like that. But it's so worth it, and I have an amazing community around me now, amazing group of women that really and truly embody everything that I stand for, and that also are doing great things out in the world. And that's exactly what I want for you guys. So today was a little bit heavier. Let that digest. Your action points are to find somebody that's already in your community, already in your phone book, already on your Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, who already has a credible, reputable service that you think that you can add value to. And you're going to reach out, communicate with them. If anyone wants any help in terms of like what to say in your emails, what to say in those conversations, but essentially, let me know. But essentially, it's just building a relationship with that person and coming from a place of service. This is how I can help you out. Remember that it's like a cycle. The more of service you are, the more love you put out into the world, the more it comes back. And the second thing that I want you to do is a continuation from the first day, I guess, was to create that compelling vision for yourself. Dream big, let yourself go there. Anything is possible. And what's really amazing is what your desires are gifted to you. They are meant for you. So if you can believe it, you can definitely achieve it. It was sent to you by God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's all there. If it's in here already, it is possible. That's your higher self saying to you, this is what you can achieve. And what's really interesting is when we look at other people and we get that smidgen of jealousy or like, oh, I wish I could do that. It's really annoying. Why isn't it working for me? That's actually your higher self nudging you saying, this is what you're capable of. Let's switch, let's pivot, let's adapt, let's move towards, let's commit and keep committing. Sometimes we take our foot off the gas a little bit and we decide that it's not possible for us. Actually, 100% it is. So there's your 2 tasks. So let me know if you enjoyed it. I'll be sending this out on the replay. Lots to think about. Any questions? The girls, the instructors that joined us yesterday are still in the group. They're still here to help you. They can help you with breath work. They can help you with your self-led practice. They can also help you in terms of just business advice and tips. How do they build their personal brand? Obviously, they use the Exhale brand. That makes it a hell of a lot easier, but they still are building their own personal brands within that. They still bring out their signature style as well. So there's lots and lots to think about, lots and lots of support in this group. Thank you so much for joining me. It was my pleasure to be walking alongside you on this journey. Have a good day.